a program. So now my goal is, this session goal is from end to end. Let's say this is UI, this is database. I want to show you here Spring controller and here Hibernate, here JSP/Spring forms, Spring tags, all the CRUD operations, right? These are the main operations, right? Any application you take, these are the things you will do. You don't do anything apart from that. Any application you take, maximum you do what? CRUD operations. Getting some records, updating some records, modifying some records, deleting some records. That's it, right? Any application you take, nothing you will do, right? Nothing more than this you will do, right? So, and we are using Spring technology as well as Hibernate. Okay. So in this process, I want to start eliminating XML configuration everywhere. XML configuration, instead of XML configuration, I want to start annotation based Java configurations. As of now, I explained Hibernate with XML configuration. Spring, I explained both XML as well as annotation based. Now what I'm going to do, in Spring still we configured dispatcher servlet and view resolvers, all these things. Still we are configuring XML, even though we moved to AutoWire and stereotype annotations, qualifiers, we still using some configuration from the XML. I want to move that configuration also into Java configuration. First thing, as part of this program, let me open what I'm trying to explain you. Spring MVC Bell info, Spring MVC flow, right? Okay. Here you still configuring view resolver, resource bundle, tiles configuration, URL based view resolver. In web.xml you are configuring dispatcher servlet and mapping to slash. All these things you are doing here, right? I want to move this configuration into Java first thing, because like the evolution happens in the Spring or Hibernate, any technology, right? When they identified the frameworks in the beginning, they believed XML configuration is the best approach. Okay, so they went ahead with XML configuration. Then slowly they realized it's really annoying for a developer, a Java developer, to be flexible with XML as well. So they started slowly migrating into Java, that XML configuration, using different type of annotations. Okay, so the reason why I explained you have XML configuration instead of directly getting into the annotation, because that gives you more confidence. If you understand XML configuration, when we do annotations, right, you can easily understand what you're going to do. Instead of, if I say, instead of explaining how to configure a bean in XML, servlet XML, if I use @AutoWire and component, it doesn't give you a confidence. Oh, even if something goes wrong, you don't get a sense of what went wrong as well. Now we understand XML, and if you use annotations, you will understand, okay, @AutoWire, what it does, it is just injecting a bean. So what wrong I am doing it, kind of thing. Okay. So now as I'm going to do end-to-end program, my goal is to show you less XML configuration, more Java configuration. All the configuration should happen in the Java itself. Okay. keep that in mind. So this program not only end to end, we are going to do a lot of little bit changes around. For Hibernate as well, we are doing it what you called XML configuration. Now I'm going to do everything in the HBM file we have, right? Hibernate mapping file. Instead of writing that mapping file in the Pojo object itself, see, how do you map, how do you convey this product table to convert into product, how do you convey this product object to convert into product table using product hbm.xml file. I'll take this configuration, I'll move it into product table. How do I move it? I use like @entity. So when I use @entity, it understands, okay, he's doing Hibernate mapping. Okay, @id, if I say here @id, you will understand. Okay, he's trying to define unique ID as PID as unique ID, and if you could pass what you call native here, it will understand, okay, he want to use native as ID generation algorithm kind of logic. Okay, going forward I'm going to do in this program, so don't get confused, and I'm going to explain each and every part, but I just want to give you overview before we're going to start. Are you guys with me? Okay, nice. Let's start that then. Close all. Maven project. As we are doing to deploy web app, right? So I need a web app. What we can call project with can we call it as team? Yeah, cricket team. Okay, nice. Cricket team ratings. Okay. Bell info. What you called cricket. That is a group. Here I'm going to call cricket rating. Yeah. First thing what we need to do, update our pom.xml, right? Okay, let me go back if I have everything here, otherwise I'll upload it. Yeah, I have. So I'll explain you. If there is any special modules are there, I'll explain you. Okay. I think I segregated very nicely. Nice. Just I need to replace the name, except that everything is there. Let me configure from here. Properties also I need, right? Did we miss anything? Yeah, come back here. I'll explain. Okay, so this is the Java X modules. First thing, Java X modules are what and all? JSTL modules, validation, servlet, JSP, Java X servlet. All these are Java X modules. Okay, just like Java module, Java X modules, and then Spring modules. Spring modules are Spring. See, group is going to be same. If you look at, right, all the Spring modules group are org.spring framework, but artifact it is going to be changed. Spring Web, Spring Core, Spring Web MVC, Spring Test, Spring Transactions, Spring ORM. ORM is Hibernate. So this is where you are integrating Spring Hibernate. Tiles Core, Tiles JSP, Tiles API, Tiles Servlet, Tiles Template, Hibernate Validator. Here Hibernate modules. Hibernate Validator, Hibernate Core, Hibernate Entity Manager, Hibernate Cache if required, EH Cache, and Database, PostgreSQL, and Logging, JUnit. Okay, logging I haven't explained. I'll explain. That's pretty simple. Like, as part of this program, I'll explain. Okay, so as this is a web application, you want to create what? First folder is Java folder. You need to create here. Okay, so now here we're going to write the best way to explain you guys what is the module that has been created. I'm going to create a packages first. Okay, 3 to 4 packages. Okay, so that you start getting the sense. One is, as we know, package name is com dot. What is we configured here? First group ID should be go, right? Com dot cricket package cricket dot controller. This is one module where you're going to have a controller logic. Next one, I'm going to create package dot model, all your model objects, right? And another package database access, right? So DAO I will call it as data access, DAO. Okay, next package. What else we have? As we are not using XML configuration, we are going to use Java configuration. Those Java configurations I will keep it here in it. Nice. Package as between your controller layer and the database layer, there is some business logic you wrote, right? That business logic should go somewhere, right? So that is nothing but service layer, service or domain layer. Okay, nice. So now you created 5 packages, different modules. So each package is going to have its own functionalities, right? Next thing is what we want, resources, right? So in resources, what we're going to create is application.property file, where you're going to have what? Simple file is not there. Yeah. Application dot properties. Okay, nice. So what we're going to configure in application dot properties? We're going to configure our database property, database related. I always relate back to what exactly we're doing earlier, what we're going to do now as well. Okay. So earlier in our JD servlets programs, we configured in your application properties as well, right? But in our Hibernate, Hibernate programs we configured in our configuration CFG file. But now we are going to configure simple all the database related stuff in application.property. Okay. So call it as DB properties. Okay. Then DB dot, you can call it as driver, anything, right? All is properly you need to load org dot postgresql dot driver db dot URL. What is the URL? Database. Yeah, you don't need to be pro to remember all this. What I'll do, I'll just take this properties and keep it there, and then update it. That saves my time, right? DB dot username. DB dot and this is basic database configuration. Now what we're going to do? We're going to do Hibernate configuration. Hibernate related configuration. This is just a comment so that if somebody reads it, okay, these are all database properties, these are all Hibernate properties. Easily understandable comment. You need to provide all the time all the comments, like, you know, above the method, above the class, above each property file that you wrote. Hibernate configuration, I am writing it here. Hibernate dot dialect org dot hibernate dot dialect dot. Sometimes my presence of mind is the problem. Progress dot. Yeah, it should work. If it doesn't work, I'll come back and change it. Hibernate dot show underscore SQL content. Just want to check one configuration which I am not remember. Did I mention anywhere here? Yeah, HPM Hibernate dot update. I have here, right? So just I'll take here, okay, from here. Nice. So all the properties what I did from here, I moved here. But still Hibernate doesn't understand. You just moved this configuration. You need to inject these configuration files into your Hibernate, so that when application is coming up, Spring will come up. Spring is integrated with Hibernate. Hibernate will come up. When Hibernate is coming up, it looks for all the properties. So you need to inject all this into your Hibernate, right? How are we going to do? So this is configuration is done here. Next challenge is here. Init class, init package. Here just focus couple of minutes with me. So we can go back. Two classes I'm going to create here. One is web initializer, right? Initializer. Web initializer. One class. Another one is what we can call web app configuration. Web app configuration. Okay, this one also I'll rename it. So for readability, as this last program I want to follow all the norms. Web app initializer. Okay, so basically what you used to do in your web.xml, you start writing all your dispatcher servlet. Let me open it so that you understand what we did. I want to move that logic into configuration. That's it. Not this one. Web.xml. What we did here, you configure your dispatcher servlet in your web app, right? So that is what I'm going to do. This configuration I'm going to move into web app initializer. How do I move that web app configuration to web app initializer? All I'm going to do is implements. They provided some configuration. Okay, implements web application initializer. This is the class that has been provided by Spring Framework, a corresponding supportive version, corresponding Java version for your web.xml configuration. Okay, as it is giving, you need to override. What is the override method that it is saying? As you are extending web application initializer, it must override. You must implement some unimplemented methods that has been there web application initializer. So the method name is nothing but on startup. You need to write your logic here. Now if you look at this guy, this is plain, this is as good as like this. This class now is as good as web.xml, but you need to inject all these values, right? That's your goal, right? So that those logics you need to provide here. Okay, this is one-time configuration for your entire application. Okay, Am I recording? Okay. Annotation, NNOTA annotation, configure web application context, annotation config web application context. Yes. So this is the context I want. By reading the name itself, you can sense it, right? Annotation based config web application support kind of thing. Okay. By you created this context, you need to create into this context, you need to add all your configuration files. Okay, we'll add that configuration file later. Context dot set servlet context. Sorry, servlet config, right? Context. This is one-time config, so just trying to set one-time servlet context. Okay, from where you will get the servlet context? Servlet context will be available already with you from on startup. Right, so you're going to use this guy, servlet context dot add listener. Oh, it's not there. Whatever. Servlet context dot something. It's okay. We'll see if when we encounter the problem will resolve, right? There is nothing stops. So next thing is here you need to configure your dispatcher servlet. So how do you configure dispatcher servlet? Dynamic. So servlet registration, right? Servlet. Which one we need to take? Servlet registration. Servlet registration, right? Yeah, this one. So servlet equal to servlet context. In this context you need to add what servlet you want. Oh. Where the hell it is not showing it up? Something I missed it. Basically I'm just trying to see. It's the irritating thing. Annotation config web application context. Annotation config web application context, right? We took the right one, right? All Spring Framework web context support annotation config web application. All Spring Framework dispatcher servlet Spring Framework. Let me try to import and see whether they are available or not. in my package, right? I haven't added properly. Framework web dot servlet dot display servlet. Okay, this is good. Web context dot support dot annotation config web application context. Okay. I need a loader listener, right? Whether I imported listener or not. Org dot Spring framework dot web dot context dot context loader listener. Context loader listener also there. We added a Java X dot servlet context. Oops, just trying to say, so it will give you an error, right? I just registered my configuration to this. Then context dot listener new context loader listener of cities. Listener, why they removed it? Latest version. Give me 1 second. Just trying to figure out what's wrong. Okay. Is it because of the way I took the XML file? It doesn't like. Oh, damn it. I need to first configure here whatever the configuration that we had here. But this time I'm planning to take web app 3.0. Okay. Don't worry, I'll explain. I think this is the problem. Sometimes I'm an idiot. And then what I want is I want to go with because this servlet configuration, right, whatever I'm trying to do with Java, that is available from 3 dot, I'm using 2.2, right, web that is available from 3. So I need to change the configuration here. See here, it will update all the configurations in the bottom left, right, bottom. XML schema, Java, Sun, XML, NS, name J2E. You can chat yeah, Java, anything you can use, I guess. Java. Actually, I kept some configurations next to me here so that it helps me to fix the problem, certain problems. Java E, and then Java.xml namespace Java E. Actually, they changed the location for 3.0, so space Java E web app 3 underscore 0 XSD. XML namespace also. So you don't need to too much worry about all this, because basically what I will do from here, I'll copy it. I guess here we'll have it. Okay, I understood. I copied the wrong configuration files from here. I need some updates need to be done. I'll just configure. Spring version I'm using here is Hibernate version 4.2.0. Hibernate version is okay. They removed in 4. I think they may upgraded here, so I'm just degrade this version and see. Okay. Should pick it up actually, ideally. RELEASE, right? Release, okay. And Hibernate version, compatible version for Hibernate is 4.2.0 final. I mean, sometimes whenever they upgrade, right? So they upgrade with some updates will be there. Upgrading is nothing but changing the programming, right? So those kind of things may stop my program. I mean, certain features may removed, certain features may added. Don't worry too much about it. What I will do, let me update my form file here somewhere. Give me 1 second, huh? Just give me 1 second. I'm just updating that what you call my Kaizen file so that we can simply paste it. Where the hell it happened? Can I try to here? I forgot to add this. Just 1 second. Let me pass it. And what is the project name? Cricket team settings. Sorry, it shouldn't take this much time. Okay, next one is configure your XML file. That's it. You don't need to do anything here. Okay. Then outer. Or is it because of it couldn't identify? I think so. Register. So context. Okay. Now I got it. Add listener. Context loader listener. Sorry for that. I hope you guys are carrying understanding whatever I'm trying to do here. Basically, because of the incompatibility versions, I couldn't able to identify this method. The servlet context has been upgraded and they brought up this method to support web-based, but earlier I'm using old servlet context in JavaX. The JavaX configured in the in the PALM file is the older version. JavaX, where is the JavaX? Yeah, it was configured 2 dot something. Now I need 3.0. So that is the reason I couldn't identify this new method. Okay, so by adding the 3.0, I am able to identify now. Context dot set servlet context. Whatever the servlet context you uploaded, I'll explain you. Don't worry. Then dynamic servlet equal to, first time it made a little bit in servlet context dot add. Here you're going to name what kind of servlet. Dispatcher. DISPA dispatcher TCH DIS. And you're going to say take it as a new dispatcher servlet with the context that I provided. And then you need to map that dispatcher servlet add mapping. URL mapping is slash and servlet dot set load on startup 1. Okay. Maybe now you guys are a little bit understanding, right? When I started writing last 3 lines. So if I come back here, if I copy this guy as is and keep it here, I will compare what I'm doing, right? So in order to copy this MVC dispatcher, you are conveying dispatcher servlet with the dispatcher servlet name and take it as a new dispatcher and then load on startup, and you need to map this dispatcher to URL mapping, and then where is we configuring mvc-dispatch-servlet.xml. that is important, right? mvc-dispatch.servlet.xml, that is where you configure all the Spring related stuff. That is something you configured in, you're going to configure in web app configuration. This is Spring understandable. This is where we're going to write Spring understandable configuration. This is web application understandable configuration. This is web application understandable configuration. Earlier when the Tomcat is coming up, Tomcat understands XML, right? So now you configured in web app. So now Spring's responsibility to convert internally this Java configuration into XML and feed it to Tomcat. So make that Tomcat and Spring are on the same line. But the reason why they converted into Java, to make Java developers' life more easy. Okay. Now in this context, you are configuring, you are asking, go and look web app configuration files, configuration Java file as well, where I am configuring all my Spring related stuff. By doing that, register web app configuration with your context and pass that context to dispatcher servlet. So dispatcher servlet, when it is coming up, it looks for the context. When it looks for the context, it looks for web app configuration. So in web app configuration, as of now, you haven't wrote anything, but you're going to write whatever you wrote here, going to be understand when the application startup. In the application startup itself, all these things happens. Make sense? So let's write application app config. It's okay. Yeah, as long as you guys are understanding, I'm okay to spend time. How do you configure? There are a couple of annotations you need to follow. One is @configuration. @context annotation. Yeah. @configuration. Next thing is what and all you do. Component scan you do, right? Component scan you will configure in your MVC dispatcher, this one, right? Component scan. Yeah, come on, component scan. So you need to configure that using annotation. What is the corresponding annotation for component scan? Same, component scan. What is the package you need to scan? You need to provide here. Earlier you are providing package here, right? Same thing. What is the package? It is com.bellinfo. CK. Look at all the classes in this package. Okay, and you conveyed this is Spring Web MVC, right? So you need to use you enable Web MVC. Make sense? Then you need a transaction management. Use enable transaction management, and then @property source class path application dot properties. In this property source, here you're going to configure, right? Like, resource bundle, base name, messages dot property file, all these things. Instead of that, all you need to do is use the property rows and you convey look for in the class path application dot properties file. When you are loading application, load all the configurations that I mentioned in application dot properties file. What and all I mentioned? These are all Hibernate configurations I mentioned. Make sense? So keep following me. That's its configuration. Now here the best practice is this is, you don't need to do, but the best practice, the best way to do is all these configurations that you do here, right? You need to define static constants. You need to define constants which are not going to vary. So go back and define constants for this in your web app config. How do you define the constants? I'll just keep it there, and here I'll remove it later. Private static final string property something, anything, property name. This is always good practice. Okay, database driver, so that this will be loaded as it is a static and it is a final, it is a private string. It will be load and along with the class, and will be available for all the objects you create. So you no need to create of multiple objects. By doing this, you will create a single string and it will be available across, because this doesn't change, right? This doesn't change, right? So that's the reason. Database driver, this is the key you need to configure here, and how to get the value we'll see. Okay, next I'll copy paste multiple times and rename it. Okay. Database db URL, and then db username, db password. I thought of doing Spring Boot as well. Looks like I don't have time, and you guys may not have patience as well, right? You may getting tired. Hibernate that. Hate that. Because if you guys understand this piece, we are good actually. You don't need to worry much about it. Whatever the properties that you want. Okay. Let's remove this piece. Then change the database URL, username, password, city, anything you can use. All you need to show. Format. Constants, you always need to use the variable's name in a capital letters all the time. Okay. Default. HPM to TDL. First four are database related. You can, even if you can leave it as it, but it's good to Hibernate. Okay. Nice. These are Hibernate, those are database. Nice. Next thing, how do we load the properties from this application into our application into this class is using the Spring provides you one class environment, env. Okay, what you need to do, all you need to do is at the rate, you can use resource or at the rate autowire. Did we forget to mention AVAX annotation? It's okay. There is no point to waste it. I'll use at the rate autowire. Put the rate autowire. I'll say. Let's see if it is. Then, just like the beans creation, right? When you want to create at the rate autowire, is like automatically it will create a new bean. But there is other way of creating the beans is bean ID equal to, you remember? So there is another way of doing it by providing all the information is using at the rate bean. Let me show you. Public. I'll call it as whatever I'm going to store, whatever I'm going to store, database related stuff. I'm going to call it as data source. Okay, data source method. In this data source, how I'm going to provide, with the help of Spring provide certain support, driver manager data source, I can call it as data source, new driver manager data source. And then in this new driver manager, you need to provide all your settings. Okay, you remember in your CFG file you mentioned all the configuration database related stuff, right? Here that is what we are doing here. Once we complete this page, this class, you can easily understand. Set driver class name and data source, set URL, data source dot set username, data source dot set password. Driver name is, I'm going to use environment to load the property from application.property file. From application.property file and try to use environment file class to load. Environment class gives me flexibility to load from the property files. Environment get required property and driver class name, right? Driver class name is driver database driver. This is what this, by passing this value So you are asking environment get required property. Required property is db.driver. If you go to db.driver and value it will provide r.postgres.driver. This is the value it will provide, and that value will be set into set driver. That's what happening. How does it loads? Because you mentioned here property source, go and look for application.properties. Okay, and it's an environment class that has been provided by Spring. You guys getting? Okay, so next one is, if I wrote this program in the beginning without XML configuration, all those things, you guys little challenging, extreme challenging to understand. That is the reason I did first with the properties. I mean XML configuration. Say database URL. Username and password. This password. Okay. Nice. So once you set all these values, you need to return, as this method is just to data source, get the data source. So you're going to write and return data source. So if somebody calls give me the data source, it will call create the data source from driver manager data source that has been provided by Spring, and you set all the values and return it back. Who is going to call this guy? That is we need to see. Okay. Now you remember next step is you need to let me open some. Yeah. Now our step is, now we provided all these data source related, these four properties, right? These four. But all these four you need to inject into session factory, right? That's what it happens in this XML. These properties will be understood by session factory. So that is what you're going to do here. Okay, you're going to write your own. So like I mentioned, how do you create this data source? And our application is coming up. It needs to see @bean tag. When there is @bean tag, it understands, so I need to create this object while application startup itself. I need to create this object while application startup itself @bean with these values. Why I am using AutoWire here @bean here? Because AutoWire is something you don't need to define this object. The object has been already defined, very well defined. So you can use AutoWire that time. But @bean when you need to use, if you want to create a new object with the new data, with your own data, then you need to go for @bean. Okay. Now you're going to what? You need session factory. Your local session factory bean. So now that I will call it as session factory. So you need to return local session factory bean. So as usual, you need to see local session factory bean sf equal to new local session factory bean. And what you're going to feed this guy? You need to feed what and all you need to feed? You need to feed session sf dot, you need to feed data source, right? Sf dot set data source. From where you will get the set data source? By calling this method. By calling this method, you will set all the values. So by calling this method, it will return you data source with the values that you have here. Okay. Next, what you want? Sf dot set. There is another option is set Mm, it's Hibernate 4 or Hibernate? Oh, okay. I need to use Hibernate 4 package. Yeah, now if you look at it, sf dot set packages to scan. What packages you want to scan? Mm, what are the packages you want to scan in your application diet? Forgot to add. Sorry, I'm tired. We forgot to add one thing is I'll explain this line, but for now you just remember. Okay, I'll explain this line what it is. Okay, Hibernate entity, because we are going to move from Hibernate configuration to Java configuration, right? This one is required for that. Entity manager dot packages dot to packages to scan dot scan. Anything you can use it. Okay. What are the packages? Com dot. Where do my package Hibernate package related is? In this one. Bell info dot cricket dot model. In this package, look for entities. Okay. Packages to scan is, so you need to do, so as I don't have patience, I'll directly call that guy. Okay, rather than creating a static content. You guys understand already that, so I'm directly calling this guy here. You can create a static content, that is the create the static string and then access just like this way, but I'm directly accessing, becoming lazy. Okay. Then you set the data source in your session factory, you set the package in your session factory, and then you need to set one more property file. I'll tell you later. Return sf. Okay, but you are yet to set Hibernate related properties, right? You are yet to set Hibernate related properties. Okay, that Hibernate related properties I'll explain here. This is data source is done. Private properties, Hibernate properties. I'm just returning simple properties. Okay, what and all the properties? Properties just like Java util. Okay, you need to return the properties. What and all the properties? You need to write properties prop equal to new properties. Okay. In these properties, you need to start setting. Properties is just like map key value pair. Properties dot, sorry, prop dot put going to inject all the values. Okay. So what is the key? This is the key, right? And what is the so these are the different keys that we have. Now what are the values that you need to provide, right? Same thing, environment env dot get required property. This is key value will be in the property file, right? So this is the key, same key, and the value will be in the property file. Env dot get required property env dot get required property env dot get required property env dot get required property. Perfect. And then return the properties. Return so this need to be created. So these properties you need to inject into your session factory again, right? So here you need to write again session factory accept dot set Hibernate properties. It provides you. How do you provide properties? You need to pass this guy Hibernate properties. I will draw a diagram after this class writing, right? So that you can just understand what we're doing. You may have little confusions, but Hibernate properties has been and session factory has been created, and then two more things we need to do. One is Hibernate transaction manager. I'll explain when we're writing program, but for now Hibernate transaction manager ahead. Hibernate transaction manager. I don't know which one is what. What I will do here, I'll go back and check whether it is 4 or not. 4. All I need is 4. Okay. Hibernate transaction manager mgr Hibernate transaction manager for HIB mgr xn HIB transaction mgr new Hibernate transaction manager. Okay. Now you need to return here. You need to provide all the session factory transaction Hibernate transaction manager dot set session factory Then here you need to pass this session factory dot get object. It will return local session factory object. Okay, nice. And then return HIB TXI. Okay. So this is how you configure Hibernate and inject into Spring. Okay, next step is this. Now, as of now, you established a relation between Spring and Hibernate and database properties, all the definitions, right? Now you need to do one more thing from the front end point of view. What and all those? If you go to your MVC dispatcher servlet, you need to define your internal view resolver, and you need to write URL based view resolver, whatever the required, right? So those kind of configurations you need to do, still yet to do. So that is what I'm going to do now. Public, I'm going to use URL based. Okay, so URL based view resolver setup view resolver. Okay, whatever we do there, we are going to do here. Okay, URL based URL resolver equal to new URL based view resolver, and then resolver dot set prefix. What is our prefix? Web -inf slash pages slash, and then resolver dot set suffix dot JSP, and then what is the view that you want to use? I'm going to say resolver dot useset view class is what you call it? That's a typical class, right? JSTL view dot class, and then return resolver. Done. All the configuration has been done with the Java. We haven't used XML, we haven't used a Hibernate configuration file, we haven't used MVC dispatcher, we haven't used web.xml, we haven't used web.xml, anything. Everything we have finished in two classes. One is a web application. This is a Spring configuration file, equal version of a Spring configuration file, and web app is, this is nothing but web.xml file. How many times you going to do in an application? How many times you going to modify these things? Only one time, when you are setting up your first time, when your application is setting up. Okay, basically what you do, you created a data source, you created Hibernate properties, and you use those injected into session factory, data source and Hibernate properties, and then you created a transaction manager. This is where you are providing Hibernate Spring connections with the transaction manager, and you provided your session factory to this transaction manager. And one thing we forgot here, @b, and here @b. If you don't provide, it doesn't create. So whenever you create, it will create an object. Okay, you created Hibernate properties, all with the object. You created what you called data source properties by processing data source. By using these two, you created session factory. you provided this session factory to transaction manager object. You getting my point? And another one thing you created, view resolver, URL based view resolver by passing prefix and suffix. That is what we did. So when application is coming up, all this will be created and all this session factory will be created, URL based will be created, transactions will be injected, and data source will be injected, Hibernate properties will be injected. So everything is ready for your application. So whenever you ask for session factory, then you will get the database connection, you will get the Hibernate properties, then from their session you will get, from their session you will start adding, calling the database queries, right? That's what happened here. Go back and relook at this these two classes. You will understand pretty much whatever I explained. Perfect. This part is done. So now what is our business goal? I hope you guys understand all the configuration. Okay, we are not coming back. Now we are going to go for business goal. My business goal here is I want to create a cricket team where I want user can add a cricket team, user can update the cricket team ratings, user can delete the cricket team, user can see all the teams that has been listed. So these are all my objectives. Okay, so for that all I want is a team, right? All I want is a team. The team should have values, simple values like cricket ID, cricket name, and a rating that it carries, right? So that is my objective. So I'm going to create that model. What is the name called? Team. Focus here for another 10 minutes. Okay, this is where we are converting our private integer ID, private string name, private integer rating. Okay, so we are using this entity. Let me write a setters and getters. Okay, this is our approach object. Earlier, what you going to do? You're going to write a HBM file, team.hbm.xml, and you're going to define all these IDs in the HBM file, and you're going to convey to the HBM file that you want a table called team, blah, 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 everything, right? So what I'm going to do, here itself, I'm going to make use of Java configuration. So when you write @entity, okay, when you write persistence, Java X persistence it is, when you write @entity, now it has understand by you want a team. This team Pojo object is not simple object, it's an entity object. Okay, it's an entity object, and you need to map that entity object to a particular table, right? So here you're going to say @table. What is the table name? You need to provide here name equal to teams. Okay, makes sense. As soon as you provide table names, and if you are okay with the same names for the column, then we are good. But one thing we need to do here, this is, you need to convey this is a unique ID. How do we do that? @ID, and then @generated value. This is how do you want to generate? Okay, strategy, strategy. What is the strategy? What is the algorithm that you want? Generation type dot. So these are all the different generations that we have. I mentioned earlier, right? So I'll go with identity for now. Okay, that's it. This is as good as now you wrote HBM file here itself. If you want to use different column for name, right? So you need to use @ column and provide the column name. So how do we provide the column name? It shows you very clearly here, length, what is the length of the column. Okay, so what is the name that you want to give? Is it nullable? All this configuration we did, right? Same thing you can do it here. Okay, but as that's, you guys understand, right? As long as you guys are good, I'm not going to do it because it's just taking more time for us. Nice. So you created HBM file and your property file, same object. So now this object, simple Poja object, has become entity object. Okay. That naming, when somebody says entity object, you need to think, okay, this is going to be persisted somewhere. That kind of sense you need to get. When somebody says Poja object, it's a simple Java object. So now you want to play with this guy, reading, deleting, updating, all the things, right? So which one we can write? Controller layer or what do you call it? Can we do controller layer or Hibernate? Let's do it Hibernate because that is the core purpose, right? So in DAO layer we are going to write two classes. We're going to write. Okay, I'll explain you. One is I'm going to write an interface first. What you call team repository or TMDAO, whatever you call it, repository. Sorry, maybe I opened a class, right? Okay, I created an interface. What I'm going to do with this interface, I'm going to, my specification of the interface is all the CRUD operations. What and all the CRUD operations? Adding a team, updating a team, deleting a team, getting the team, get all the team names. These are all my 5 operations. So what I'm going to do, write public void add a team. When somebody want to add a team, they need to provide the team as an input, right? They need to provide an team details in, so that I can add into the database. So input as team. You guys following me? Okay, so import it. This is one operation. This is an interface. There is no implementation. I'm going to write public void. Somebody want to update a team. Update team. So if you want to update team, they need to provide again team details, right? Otherwise I can't update. So team details as an input. Okay. Another operation we can do is get one particular team, right? Public. So now you are getting a team as an output. By passing what? Team ID, you are going to get a particular team complete details. If you passing 1, you will get India team. If you pass 2, you will get Australia team. So ID, by passing ID, you can go to get the team. Then public void delete team. Deleting a team. By passing ID, you delete the team. Then last one, you want to see all the teams that has been there in the table. So all the teams in the sense, you need to get into collections. Collections in the sense any of the list. I'm going to take this list of teams. I call it as, you don't need to provide any inputs. You just ask get all the teams. Get teams. You don't need any input for this. You will return all the teams as a list. Nice. Now I want to implement this, all the specifications that you defined in team repository. So the implementation class I'm going to write. Team repository impl. This is an implementation class. How do you implement? Implements team repository. Immediately we'll get an error. So you need to implement all the methods. Add unimplemented methods. All are public, right? I don't know. Yeah, I get it. So now you got all the implemented methods here. You need to provide the implementation here. You just got implementation template. You need to provide all the implementations, right? So in this, so now here you need to write a logic that we used to write a client logic, right? Where you go to the database and connect to the database, all the stuff. God, give me 1 second. So first thing what we want, you want, in order to connect to the database, what do you want? You want a session factory, right? How do you get the session factory? You wrote just now your initial init packages. You wrote how to load the session factory at the application startup, right? So the bean has been created. Now you want to inject that bean. Now you want to inject that bean here into this team repository class. What is the best way to implement inject it? Using AutoWire. What is the name of the bean that you need to get? You need to get session factory, right? This bean need to be injected. This session factory need to be injected. So I'll copy this session factory and I'll go to team repository impl private session factory SF. I'll say, sorry, I need to use session factory. Here you need to pass whatever the value that is there. How do you inject this in this one into this stream repository? Using @, otherwise it will say null. You haven't initialized this session factory. How do you initialize? @AutoWire. When it sees AutoWire, it looks for session factory. Where is the session factory? Where is the session factory? So in the application startup itself, in your web app configuration, you created this session factory. This session factory. So it looks for the session factory object. Oh, okay, this session factory has been created at the application startup. Let me provide it to. Yeah, let me provide it to team repository class. That's what AutoWire does. If you haven't created, if you comment out this line, come on, where is this? If you comment out this piece, and bring up the application and you will try to do here, the session factory is null, because even though you ask for AutoWire, it couldn't find. So whatever you try to access from this, you will get an error. Make sense? Okay. So first thing is add a team. First thing is, yeah, first you need to get what? From session factory you got it. But what you need to get, always you need to get session factory also, right? So write a method private which returns session factory get. There is a method called get. You can current session. Get current session. You can write this one where you need to return from session factory dot get current session. Okay, as by asking get current session, it always be if the previous sessions will be taken care. Earlier you used to create a get session dot close, session factory dot close, transaction dot commit, all the blah 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 stuff you used to do, right? You don't need to do it right now because Spring Hibernate will take care of it. Spring Hibernate integration part, those classes will taken care. So that's the reason when you ask for current session, whatever the latest session that is available in the memory, that session will be created. That session will be given back to you. Okay, whatever the latest session that is available in this session factory will be given back to you session. Okay, that session will be given back to you. Okay, so now from session, all you need to do here is, I'll ask this class get current session. Adding a team is nothing but saving into the database. How do we save that? So generally what you will do, session dot save, right? Now I am going to ask get current session, which will return session to me dot save. What is the object? Team. Got it? Cool. Nice. Next, you want to update. What you can do? Here you don't need to return this guy because you are returning void, right? So here also you are returning void. So what you can do, update team. So in order to update, what you need to do? In order to update, what you need to do? First you need to get from the database and set these values for that ID and then update the session. Or else what you can do? Session dot merge. And you have a team, so pass the team. Okay, nice. Now you want to get the team. This time you want to return team object. You want to return. How do you get the team? Get current session return session to me dot get off method, right? Get off. You need to pass team dot class comma. If you pass ID, you will get that particular row, right? If you don't pass, everything will come. Everything will be written. All the teams that has been there in the table. But you want only particular ID. So this object you need to take it back, right? So team equal to downcast the object. We did this. You guys should remember. Team. So now you got the team. Nice. You return back the team. Whoever calls get team, whoever calls this get team, that guy is going to get the team with the ID. Same delete function. Delete function get current session dot Get current session dot delete. There are some error scenarios we encounter. We will fix that when we get the errors. We'll intentionally create the errors and then we'll try to if you want to delete the team, you can do it, right? Team dot comma. It doesn't have it. It needed a remove a persistent instance from the argument may be instance associated with the receiving session or a transition identifier. If they associate with existing persistent, the operation cascade. Okay. It looks for an integer, so new object, so integer of ID. Go and to give is an object. Okay, so what I can do is for now, just to save some time, we'll see. First I will get the team from the database. In order to delete whatever the team that I need to delete, I'll get the team from the database. What is the steps to get the team from the database? I'll just need to call this guy. If I call this guy will provide me the team, right? By passing the ID. And then now I got complete team. So if team value is not null, which means if it is there in the database, let's say I have a 10 teams. If somebody asks team 11, you will get team as null. So you need to check before deleting, right? Trying to delete a row which is not there in the database gives you an error. So that is the reason I'm checking team is not null. Then get current session dot delete. Delete team, sorry. Okay. Provide list of teams. This is another implementation that we have. So return get current session. Let me go a little faster. Create query. Query from team. We'll say from team dot. You need to return list, right? List. But you need to what you call it? List of teams, right? It will create query. Get current session. Yeah. Yep. That's it. You're good here. Your database connectivity has been established. Your Hibernate configuration has been established. Now your challenge is writing the controller layer. What is the controller layer? What you want to write kind of controller layer, right? So there are two classes we can write. Basically in controller layer, what you will do in the UI, right? Sorry for taking so much time. I was under the impression to make you guys understand each and every piece that we are writing. This is the last. So in the UI, right? So you need to display all the teams, and in the display teams, you want to add one more team. So you need to create add button. Okay, and when you add it, you need to take to the new screen where it will take name and ranking, and then it will store the database. Next one is I need to create buttons next to each and every team where you want to edit each team. If you want to edit a team, you need to go to that team edit. So that will go to the update button, right? Edit team, edit page, and then it will go to the update page. So a couple of operations, different operations I need to do, right? So for that, I'm going to write a controller class. For each call, I need to have a separate logic to handle it, right? So there are two things, two classes. One is, you don't need to write it two classes, but just for the sake of, as it's the last program, let I can say, I'm going to write links controller. If something comes via links, just redirect it, kind of thing. Link controller, there is one controller class, link controller class I'm going to create. Another class is team controller class. That is our main core controller. We're almost there, don't worry. Team controller. So how do you make a class, simple class, a controller class? @controller, right? Nice. Here also. So in this link controller, what I want to do is, basically if somebody tries to access with slash, okay, I want to redirect him to some page. Okay, if somebody try to access slash index, because some applications with slash index, some application with slash, some application with slash home, kind of things, right? If somebody tries with different options, I want to redirect everyone to a single page, that is a home page. Okay, so for that purpose I am writing here two classes, public model and view main page. Okay, here I'm going to return new model and view. Another one is public model and view index page. If somebody tries to access index page, I want to convey them, go and look, return new model and view. There are different ways, but for now let's do it this one. Home dot. If somebody tries to access @request mapping value, if somebody comes with slash, return to home, and if somebody comes with slash index, return to home page. Okay, nice. Next, in team controller, now go back to team controller. So this is where we're going to write all the logics that we want to establish, right? So what I'm going to do, let's write it. We did a couple of times, right? So request mapping, yeah, so I need to write, right? As a general, right, you don't need it. Request mapping public model and view add a team page. Okay, So this one, what it will do, it will return a team page before writing controller. Okay, before writing controller, I want to service class. The reason why I want to write service class is so that you can understand service classes we need to write. Okay, before coming to okay, let me open the diagram in MVC. Okay, your controller class and your repository class. Okay, this will do all the database operations. This is the controller for between your UI and your application, where you are going to write business logic. You're going to write all the business logic here. Saving the database is also a business logic, but it's a more of an operation. But what if, like, if team comes back, you want to, let's say you have a 10 fields in that particular columns. I mean, there are 10 columns, so you got 10 fields. You want to return only 5. So filtering out those remaining 5 is the logic that you write here. So that is the business logic. So business logics will go into service class. So the communication between repository class and the controller class happens through service class. Currently in this program we are not writing all the any business logic here, but I want to show the flow. So I'm going to write 2 more classes here. Team service, even though it does nothing, but I want to show you the flow. Team service simple, and another class called interface. Team service. Okay, in team service, what I'm going to do? You're going to do same thing. Like what you called all the 4 operations you are going to use, right? So same operations you need here as well. Okay. Now here this guy will implement team service. Now you need to unimplemented methods. In unimplemented methods, so whom do you need to call? So this guy is going to be called by controller layer, right? Controller layer is going to call your service. Controller layer is going to call for your service. Service need to call repository. Repository is going to call session factory database. Service is going to call repository. So you need to establish the connection with repository. So how do we establish the relationship with repository? Using AutoWire. Private team repository @AutoWire. Okay, nice. Now you got a repository, so you just need to add repository dot add team, whatever the team that passed. Then here repository dot update team, whatever the team passed. Then here repository dot get team by passing the same ID. Here repository dot delete team. Return repository dot get teams. So you did nothing here, but say, let's say before returning a team you want to do some operations. So you take the team here, team object, okay, team t equal to, you get the team and then you play around with the T object, get T dot get delete of, T dot get of ID. If ID is ID is 5, let's say some logic, business logic, right? So I'm just trying to show you why you want this class important. Okay, if a team ID is 5, then filter that class, remove, okay, from the T dot. You write a new method called in T method, update the team name, some other value. You want to show, let's say if somebody, you stored the SSN number, something like that. Before showing it to the client, you want to mask it. You don't want to show all the full SSN number. You want to show in the last 4 digits. So those kind of logics you can write here. You getting my point? So as current program, we are not doing anything. Okay, nice. So we're done with team service. So team service, who is calling team service? Team service is called by controller. So you want service class access here in your controller class, right? Private team service, team service. Okay, here at the rate autopilot. Now you have team service here. Now you need to write one is add method, add page, add team page. Okay, next one is, let's write and then we can start implementing. Adding a team, right? Yeah, adding a team, adding team. Then list of teams you want, right? So you want to, yeah, you can call it anything, right? List of teams. Then what else you want? There are 5 operations or 4 operations we have, so you need to have more than 4 methods actually. So list of teams, and edit a team page. You want to edit, you want to modify, right? Update kind of thing. So what you call that one? Edit team page. Nice. And then one is get method, another one is post method, right? Edit team page and editing team page. This is edit team page, that is a get operation. This is editing team page. And then you want to show delete operation as well. Delete. Okay, nice. You need to write what? You need to write all your request mappings here, right? Request mapping. What is your request mapping? First time when somebody is trying to value equal to, somebody want to add, and the method is, I want to pass the input. When somebody want to add, I want to pass a dummy object to the client so that they can add, and then I will use it in my post method. Method dot request method dot get. Okay, so this is the, you remember MVC, you have one post, one get, right? For every call. One call is to create a dummy object on the client side, and another one is to carry that object into the backend. So this is a dummy object that you're going to create. when somebody try to slash add, you need to provide an object, and then when somebody populates some values into that, you need to capture that with the post method. Okay, and then at the rate request mapping, here you need to call, just list out all the teams, right? The list. If you don't provide anything, it's a get method by default. And then this is important, just focus for a second. You want to edit a team. If you want to edit a team, client has to provide the ID of the team, right? You listed 10 teams and you are trying to edit a team. If somebody want to edit a team, you need to know, client has to provide to the server what is the team you are editing. How does it provide? It can provide by ID. ID is unique, right? So it need to pass unique ID back to the client. So you can call it as edit slash, that dynamic value you can take it as dollar, by mentioning like this is the dynamic value. Okay, request method is get. Okay, and then editing team, this is the post. Okay, and last one is slash delete. Just delete it, don't do anything. Okay, perfect. In all classes, first thing is you need to return model and view. How that model and view will be, I'll explain. Model and view object. I am yet to create, but I just want to. It's almost 1:40. Let's do close. Way to give up. As we are close, you should not give up. Okay. Now you want to create a model view. So if somebody want to add a team and somebody comes with slash add, I want to take them to add team page. I want to take them to add team page. So that is called model and view. Actually, you don't need to use model and view all the blah blah blah, but it's okay. I mean, the earlier way they explained, right? What is that? It's just a string and return the string. That is also works. Okay, model and view equal to new model and view. Okay, for now just keep it here. Okay, this is required across. So I will say here I am going to create a page called add team. Okay, add team form. Okay, I'll call it a add team form, and then model and view dot add model object, add object. What is the object I need to add? Simple team, dummy team I need to pass. New team, an empty team, simple object, empty team object, so that the values when you are coming back with the post method, those value will be populated into this team. Nice, that is done. Okay, here again, so once you adding, right, so this is where you are adding. Once you adding, what you want, which page you want to send to the user, which page you want to send. Once you adding, you want to take him to the home page, right? Once you add, you want to take him to home page, so I'm going to call it as return to home page. But before returning to home page, I need to do some operations, right? You need to pass those details to back to the database. So here, adding team at the rate model attribute team cmt. Okay, so now you need to, as in this method we are going to get data from client, you need to pass it to database. So in order to pass the database, you need to call team service dot adding a team, and you pass the team, whatever the team that has been passed by the client, and from there it will go to the database. It's the whatever the repository responsibility. Okay, once that is done, you can say string str equal to, you can say team was successfully added. Okay, team was successfully added, and you need to send that message back, right? So what you can do, dot add object. Don't worry, I mean, as long as you guys are understanding what I'm writing, you don't need to understand the flow, what exactly happening, because once you see the UI, you can easily understand. Next one is list. Okay. List of teams, you want to display when somebody calls list slash list, you need to take him to all the teams that has been there. So list of teams, so I'll call that page name as list of teams. Okay, list of teams, and then you need to call team service dot get teams. It returns a list, right? So you need to capture that list of teams equal to wrong one imported. Okay, then you need to pass that object to client. A list, you need to pass it back to client. How do you pass? Same thing, model and view dot add object, you call it as teams slash teams. Done. Perfect. Next goal is editing a particular team. Okay, so if somebody comes with edit with ID, you need to edit that guy. So for this guy, you need to get input, right? This ID can be represented as @path variable, path variable, path variable integer ID. So if whatever it is there in the path, if you want that value As of now, these are all static values we used to mention, but this is time we are passing dynamic. This value keep changing, right? ID will change based on the team that you want to edit, right? So that's the reason dynamic values will be represent with the dollars, and that value can be accessed into your program using @path variable. Okay, now you got ID. All you need to do is get method. This is get. So edit team form. Edit team form, and then team equal to all you need to get is which team you want to edit, right? The passed ID, you need to go back and get the from the database and return it back to the client that this is the team you are trying to edit. Team service dot get team ID. Okay. Team service dot get team ID, and then model and view dot add object. Same team, you need to return it back. So the reason why I'm keep repeating is using the explaining when I'm writing, so that you can map it which line does what purpose. Okay, so this is also, once the edit is done, what you need to do, you need to take them to home page with updated data, right? Once it is done, you need to take him to the updated data, but in order to update, you need to call team service dot update team, from where you will get the team, from client @model attribute team comma @path variable integer ID. Okay, update team, it returns none, right? Update team is returns none, so all you need to say is string. If it is successful, if there is no error, you need to say team was successfully edited, and then you need to pass that object to the message. Okay, last one. If deletion is successful, you need to take him to home page, right, where you will display all the, so home page and delete team, delete ID, from where ID we will get from path variable @path variable integer ID. Okay, perfect. Stream was successfully deleted. Okay. Nice. So now we have all the logic in the backend. Now we have all the logic in the backend. So we wrote controller layer, we wrote service layer, we wrote repository layer, we wrote initialization. Application startup will happen here. It will create all the configurations required, and then per list of teams, list of teams, go back and get it from the database and return it back. Same thing, edit team, go back and get it back. So this piece, everything is done. Now you need to write UI, right? What is that, Disha? So is it difficult for you now to understand? Oh, okay. So next part is you need to write your web pages. For web pages, there is no exception. You need to write your pages, right? So what are all the pages that we thought, let me create a folder, pages, and then you start writing your JSP files. Yeah, if anybody not understanding, right, just go back and visit previous videos, certain previous videos. If you understand better this path, you can understand. The only thing that is new that we are doing today is initializing through Java instead of configuration file. That is something new that we did today. Remaining every piece that I explained right now is already we did in our previous programs. Now what we're doing, we are integrating. Earlier we discussed about Spring MVC, how to do Spring MVC, and earlier we discussed about how to do Hibernate separately. Now we are doing all of them together with this Java configuration. Okay, so add team form.jsp, one page, and another page is you want to show them edit page also, right? If somebody want to edit team form.jsp, and then you want to create a home page, home.jsp, list of teams. You want to display all the list of teams, right? So list of teams.jsp. That's it. So first thing is, let's go to homepage.jsp. Okay, in homepage.jsp, what you want, any form tags you want. We don't need any form tags. All you need to do is let me take any of the existing ones, any headings configurations, so it saves some time rather than breaking it and fixing it. I'll take this piece, okay, just for the sake of saving some time. So home.jsp, this piece. So every time you need to, when you first time when you try to access the home page, you need to show all the teams. Second time, if somebody modified something, and then you need to take them back to the home page. If somebody try to add a team, once adding successful, you need to take them to the home page. So if there is any message from the server side, if there is any message from the server side, it's a para. Okay, if there is any message from the server side, display that message. If nothing is there, it doesn't display. New line. And then here, when somebody try to access the home page, all I want to show them is add a team and list teams. Two options. Okay, so href, I'm going to take dynamic values. How do you reach the add team? I showed you in the earlier programs. Dynamically, you need to identify page context dot request dot context path slash team slash add dot html. Okay, so this is something like add new team. This is what you want to display on the UI. Is there anything we missed? href, we are going to configure it to page context request to request context path is correct, right? Slash team and add. That is what we have in a control, right? So all operations you are doing here, right? So you can call it as value, so that all operations related to team will come here. Slash team. Okay. Home page. What is the problem with this guy? You can't fit into the paragraph. Why the hell? Weird. Anyways, let's say HTML pane. Think about it. And another one is which team we want to do. Homepage. In homepage we want to go to team dot. You want to show the list. If somebody clicks, you want to show the list. So team list. It's okay. It will resolve automatically. Everything is there, right? Did you forget any configuration? Nice, is right. Maybe with .html. No, nothing to do with this guy. Yes, something is wrong. Some doc types we may need to add. Let me see. I'll update my doc type here and see. I think so. It should not actually. This way and see. Till this way accepts. Above one is resolved, below one is not resolved. This is plain HTML. I hate it. Caches or something. Dollar. Yes. Page context. Okay. Let's keep it like that, okay, for time being. Just HTML because we want to go through some flow. Let it break, it's okay. Let me see whether I will. Now I have everything, right? Let me compile this program and see whether they display or not. Clean, install. Okay, nice. try to install here. Okay, add the project and bring up the application. HIB properties must not be configuration problem. Hibernate properties must not be. Properties you don't need to create a pane. You need to sure. Yep. Just thinking what is the best way. Looking at my previous practice example as well. Give me 1 second, guys. You don't need properties configuration. Let me see. Properties may not be need to create. The properties is separately we're creating, right? Damn it. Bad. Everything looks good. Okay. So let me remove this guy and add it again. Yeah. Another thing we forgot to do is I think we forgot to do one thing is we need to inject these guys. Right, for each service sample, I need to say, like, for example, you're connecting, you remember annotations, what you called stereotype annotations. So those things you need to use component or the things, right? You need here I'm going to use repository component because it is related to database. So if there is any functionality that is around with the database, it will be injected. And then for service, I'm going to say @service. It's as good as component actually. Okay. So we are good with service. And another thing we need to do one thing, I'll tell you. Repository is done. You don't need to do controller, right? So another thing is like you need to, as you're injecting transactionals, right? Transactions. So you need to inject transactional as well. Okay. Come on. Is my application added? So all I worry about it. Yep. Detected and initializing. Perfect. So let me try to access this guy. Localhost. What is the project name? Cricket-team-ratings. It is going to hello world because of this index page. Why it is trying to go there? As even I mentioned, right, slash should go to home DSP. So in my Java classes, team controller, web app configuration, and then link controller. somebody come slash taken to home page slash index to home page. Okay, so now I'm getting two teams. Add a new team list, right? That is cool. Now when I click on add new team, it needs to take me to add new team form. When I click on teams list, it needs to take me all the list that has been there. This is my home page, right? Yeah, so you can ignore this irritating HTML slash JSP slash CS slash blah 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 errors. Okay, these kind of errors not stopping your program. Maybe it's settings or configuration. If you clean up and restart something, the errors that it show up will go away. And I don't want to spend energy there. Okay. Then now we're done with home page. Now we want to, let's say you want to list out all the teams. Okay, can we try the list out all the teams scenario? So for that, all you want is certain section of logic. I'm going to configure in what you call basically you got a list of teams. You need to revisit the logic every time. I mean, you need to loop the logic. You need to loop the logic and then save it into new teams, that the team list that you got from backend system. So what is the configuration you need to do for that? Is this is just a upper topic. I'm just using JSTL course for what you called list of teams. This the top portion. Okay, let's leave it there. Okay, leave it there as is. You don't mind. Then now when somebody gives slash teams, right? List of teams, what you need to display, when you are displaying, you already have a data from the backend. How does the data from the backend? When you click on home page, so this is the page here, it listed out like this, right? When you click on the team list, it will go all the way team slash list in your team controller, team slash list, and it will go to the database. It will get all the teams to you, right? So that is where you want to display. So how do you want to display? How are you going to display? You need to table. Damn it. Table. You need to display in the table, right? Table, and then tr, th, table row, table header. Th. For each, basically, I want to display this list like this, right? In this list, I'm trying that with HTML. So for that, first you need to have a team header. Do you mind if I copy from a configuration file those headers, all the blah 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 stuff? Okay, so that saves a lot of time for me. I'm not so pro with whatever, like HTML stuff. So I'm going to list out the list, whatever the complete list. So from where I'll take, and then I'll modify it according to our request. Okay. It takes time for me to fix it actually. So basically this is the section you need to have. I will remove certain whatever we supposed to do and then we'll do it, but table header blah blah blah. Okay, I'll remove this piece. Yes, I'm going to delete add. I'll remove this piece. Okay, so in this piece, this is the HTML piece that we have. Okay, all I'm doing is using GSTL core tag. All I'm doing is using come on boss. Okay, all I'm doing is using this GSTL core tag. If you go back to your team controller, this is going to return all the teams that has been there in the database from the team service, right? Can you agree? These teams are available in our model view object. This model view object you're going to have here list of teams. Here you're going to have the teams. So using JSTL core for loop, for each loop I'm going to repeat. Okay, I'm going to repeat this until, so each repeating instance, each team I'm going to extract from the teams list. Each team I'm going to extract from the teams list and then display in this section. This is the headers, ID, name, rating, actions as the headers that I am giving you, providing on the top, and then I'm going to loop this teams list, each team list, and I'm going to display the value here. So for each team in teams list, that's what it means. Okay, are you guys with me? So from that, how do you access dynamic values? Dollar team dot id, dollar team dot name, dollar team dot rating, right? This is what you're going to display. Let's see whether we are going to be able to display or not. And then now if you want to modify there and then itself, you want to provide some additional information in the list page, edit page and delete page also you want to provide. What are the actions that you want to provide, right? If once you display, the list, team name, team ID, team name, team ID, team name, ratings, and here you want to provide edit / delete options you need to provide. If somebody clicks on delete, you need to remove this table. If somebody clicks on edit, you need to take them to edit page where you can with this name, with this ID, and then if you change the name, it will need to go and update the database, right? So for that purpose, I'm going to provide in another column, okay, where you're going to have one thing I would have been done better is first to show the screen how it's supposed to, what's our end goal, so that you could have been sensed it more better. That's okay. First is first. Page context dot request dot context path, and then so again somebody want to edit / edit, and what is the ID, team ID. This is the important piece. Dynamically you are passing, right? For that column, team dot ID. Right? Page context dot request dot context path slash team slash you want to delete with dynamic value team dot close this guy and you provide as a delete. td done, right? tr slash a page context dot request dot context for each is done. And if you want to go to home page, right, same thing, just copy this guy, take him to home page. If you want to take him to the home page, separate paragraph, so paragraph will make it clear. And here what you need to do, index.html. Okay, this is the list of what you called ID name rating, right? That is what the values we have. ID name rating, okay, same values you need to have. Page context dot request dot team slash delete dot blah blah blah. Okay, done. Next one is two more pages, guys. Two more pages. Be patient. These are more or less easy, but like I mentioned, I'm going to use of configuration. Same thing I want here. Add a button. Explain read it out. So basically here you're going to have, if somebody comes with slash team, add team, then you going, we did this example already. This is the post method which will go to slash team and then it will try to identify, add it, and then it will go to the get the values whatever you added here and populate those values into team object and provide it back to, what is that, provide it back to your this team slash add post method this value. So one from here you will carry all the values and save it to the database, right? So and then list it out and display page, and every page you are displaying home page kind of thing. Okay, and the last one is edit team. Generally for this kind of development you will get at least 3 weeks of time in your day-to-day job, office work. At least 3 weeks. But we are doing in 3 hours, so I know it's little tough. This is edit. Perfect. Edit team is when you try to edit, you need to pass the edit team ID. Okay, let's see what happens. How many errors, how many challenges that we'll encounter. We'll try to solve one or two. If it's still continuing, we'll take a break and I'll take one more class. Me too, exhausted. Generally, if we change JSPs, blah blah blah, you don't need to, but I'm overcautious. That's it. Okay. Fingers crossed. Okay, add new team. Yeah, you got a team. Now I'm going to say India. Okay, so team was added successfully. Now when I say team list, see, now I got one India to edit. So I want to go home page. I haven't provided home page here. So what I need to do, go back here, keep this guy in the list of teams. Yeah, we have, right? Oh, I'm calling it as delete. It's not delete, right? It's a home page. Home page. Make sense? So when I click here, I'll go back to home page. I'll add one more team. Then add team. It's done. South Africa 3. So now if I look at list, so you can see the list, right? And it's a ID, it's a rating. Okay, now I want to edit the rating for New Zealand to 9. Okay, edit. I got the New Zealand and I want to update 9. Edit. Now if you go to team list, you will see 9. Getting my point? So if you want to delete this guy, right? So now if you come back, you don't see that team. See, only 4 teams are available. So we are doing all kind of operations here. Edit, delete, update, all kind of operations we are doing it. add team list. Getting my point? So my request is, can you guys go back and look at this program? I know I took a lot of time, and it took a lot of energy for you guys also to focus. I can understand that, but don't, if you want, I can do one more